Today, when we think about learning, we often think about classrooms, online courses, training programs, and degrees. But apprenticeship has existed long before any of those things. In fact, versions of apprenticeship can be traced back thousands of years. Long before there were schools, textbooks, training departments, or even instructional design models, people were learning through apprenticeship. So the question is, why has apprenticeship survived thousands of years? And what can instructional designers learn from a model that has stood the test of time? So, Chuck, today let's talk about apprenticeship. I really would love to dig into some of the history behind it, because I think the historical context of apprenticeship programs, apprenticeship in general, can really lay the foundation for what we're going to be talking about today and in future videos.
So true. I love apprenticeship. I've been in an apprenticeship both as an apprentice and, thankfully now I design apprenticeship programs. I help instruct. I do all the things. But if you look at the history of it, that's what's so fascinating about this. How can something that we know originated that many years ago still be just as successful as it was then? And I think a couple of things to look at. One is if you look at my 9 generations of learning transfer and you go back to where this would fit, it definitely goes back to second, third generation, well before any electronic media or anything else that I talk about. And the reason for that is it is just so natural and so obvious, and it just works so well. And what has changed is how instructional designers look at this, and they've added their expertise to it. So now you have a hybrid model of a many thousands year old way to approach training.
Yeah. And when you think about at the core, right, apprenticeship is actually pretty simple.
Yeah.
And it's an experienced worker who teaches a less experienced worker through a combination of demonstration, coaching, practice, and feedback. And so the apprentice watches, the apprentice tries, the apprentice makes mistakes, the mentor provides the guidance and the feedback. So over time, the responsibility of the apprentice increases until this person can perform independently. Yeah. And so while the tools and the technologies have changed dramatically since, long before, the basic process remains remarkably consistent.
Yeah. And I think the larger issue, and for those of you that aren't familiar with apprenticeship, maybe not you're so familiar with instructional design. I mean, both those things are fine, because what we have here is a general way of designing learning well beyond just the skilled trades. It's beyond bricklaying. It's beyond painting. It's beyond being a carpenter. It's beyond being a plumber. Any of these things, this is a basic way that people learn and progress. And it's not just in the trades. It's in almost every particular thing that you and I have built courses for. There is some level of apprenticeship mentality within these builds. So if you're looking at this and saying, oh, I don't know anything about apprenticeship, oh, that's just those folks. Well, no, it isn't. It's actually the larger building block of what instructional design is all about.
Yeah. And when we look at the historical concept, the context behind it, one example that I know we've talked about before in the past is the construction of Solomon's Temple. And this required really highly skilled craftsmen, metal workers, stone cutters, carpenters, and artisans, right? And so there were no trade schools or, formal schools for these folks to learn this kind of stuff. The job itself became the classroom, the job site. And the expertise was just passed directly from the master craftsmen down to those who are learning the trade. And I think we see this similar pattern in the ancient world as well. I mean, ancient Egypt, right? They depended on skilled workers who learned through that guided practice and the experience of people who just had that knowledge. And these massive construction projects required knowledge to be transferred from those experienced workers to the newcomers.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think about it, because unless you believe aliens built the pyramids, I mean, you got to look at it. And as I have stood there in front of them, I don't know.
I've seen the picture. It's true, folks.
I worked on and off there for 5 years. So I've been to all of them, even the step pyramids a little bit south of Cairo. I've been inside of them, places usually that people don't get to go. And you look at the construction, and they still say they don't know how they did it. There are lots of theories, but it all comes down to the fact that somebody was in charge. Somebody taught other people how to do things, and you went step by step and block by block to get what you eventually had. So I keep saying this, but it's so true. Apprenticeship is about learning. It's not that learning is about apprenticeship. And the more you think about it, so you went to college and now you're serving an internship. What are you doing? You're watching, you're performing, you're getting feedback, you're getting mentored, and you get better. And I think the teaser here for the people that are watching this is we're going to talk a lot about this. We're going to go into a great deal of detail about this and how it actually works. So it's not just about preparing courses. It's about preparing people to teach courses. And how do you take the folks that have been doing this forever and get them to share their knowledge in a way that works the best, which is something you and I do all the time. So this is a teaser. We're going to poke at you a little bit. We want you to think about this first part of it. But we are really going to get into apprenticeship and all the little pieces that go with it. So if you're watching, you never heard of apprenticeship, you think it's something else, I think you'll enjoy this.
That's right. And I want to challenge folks who are creating training programs, facilitating them. As you think about these training programs, ask yourself, are my learners mostly consuming information, or are they actively practicing the skills that they need to perform? Yep. And when you really look at it through that lens, it's going to change the way you develop and deliver these courses. Yep. It really is. Because one of the biggest lessons apprenticeship teaches us is that learning happens through doing.
Absolutely. So if you're thinking about going to college or you're making a choice about going into a skilled trade, either decision is perfect for you. It's whatever you decide is best. But don't be afraid of getting your hands dirty. And by getting your hands dirty, I mean thinking through all of this and not just sitting in a classroom. There are times when that's fine, but there are lots of different ways to learn and lots of different ways to build careers. And from our perspective, Denise, as instructional designers and managers of these programs, I've learned so much from the apprentice trades about how to really teach and design. So if you're an instructional designer, never heard of apprenticeship, I think you're going to get something out of this series. So stick with us. Be patient as we go through some of the basics, but we're going to hit some points here that I think is going to be useful for everybody.
Yeah, thanks so much for watching, everyone, and we're going to see you the next time.